You are not lazy. You are not without ambition. That is the torment, is it not? You want more than the life you are living, yet you cannot hold your own attention long enough to claim it. One week you feel unstoppable. The next week you feel like a stranger to your own promises. And that contradiction is not small. It is the silent disease that ruins gifted men. Not failure, not poverty, not lack of opportunity, but inconsistency. The habit of beginning, then abandoning, declaring, then delaying, burning with desire, then cooling into comfort. Let me speak to you plainly. Ambition without consistency is a form of self-torture. It gives you just enough vision to feel what you are missing, and just enough weakness to keep you from taking it. It turns every dream into a daily insult. You have lived this pattern. You start strong. You make plans. You feel the surge of a new beginning. And then the first resistance comes, fatigue, boredom, distraction, doubt, and your will folds like paper. You tell yourself, I will return tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next month. And you are left with an invisible pile of broken agreements that no one sees. But your subconscious keeps perfect record of every single one. Now hear me. The world does not punish you for wanting more. It punishes you for drifting. It punishes you for being a man who cannot be relied upon, not even by himself. And if you do not correct this, you will carry your ambition into old age and call it potential. There is a special kind of regret that only ambitious but inconsistent men know. It is the regret of watching others pass you, men with less talent, less intelligence, less vision, but with one advantage you refuse to develop: the ability to do the same right thing every day. You may think consistency is about discipline. That is only part of it. Consistency is about identity. It is about the kind of man your subconscious believes you are. Because you will never consistently do what you hope to do. You will consistently do what you believe you are. That is why you can be sincere and still fail. You can be excited and still fail. You can even work hard for a season and still fail, because the weakness is not in your hands. It is in your habit of abandoning yourself. If you will listen with seriousness, I will show you why this happens and how to end it. Not with a burst of motivation, but with laws that turn consistency into your nature. There are men who do not rely on mood at all. They operate by command. And before you say, that is not me, let me tell you something that will shock you. The inconsistent man is often the man with the greatest potential, because his desire is real. His imagination is alive, but his mind is undisciplined. And an undisciplined mind is a playground for fear. Yes, fear. Not the loud fear that makes a man run, but the subtle fear that makes him delay. The fear of failure, the fear of criticism, the fear of not being perfect, the fear of committing and discovering what he is truly capable of. So he starts, then he stops. Not because he is incapable, because stopping keeps him safe from the final test. If he never finishes, he never has to face the full measure of himself. Now let me ask you a question that will expose the truth. How many times have you said, this time I will be different, and meant it, only to return to the same habits when the first discomfort arrived? Do you know what that does to a man? It does not merely waste time, it erodes self-respect. It teaches your subconscious that your word is not law. And when your own mind does not believe you, how can life be expected to obey you? But here is the good news, and it is the kind of good news that demands action. Consistency is not a personality trait. It is a constructed habit. It is a discipline you can build like muscle. It begins with one decision, repeated until the subconscious accepts it as fact. In this speech, I am going to give you 11 lessons, 11 laws, designed to take a man like you, a man full of ambition but scattered in execution, and forge him into a man who finishes, a man whose days stop leaking, a man whose promises become reality, I will not reveal them all at once because your mind would treat them like entertainment and forget them. Instead, I will lead you into them like steps carved into stone, so that each one locks the next into place. But I must warn you, you cannot listen the way you have listened to other things, half-hearted, distracted, hoping the feeling will do the work. This is a speech for obedience, not amusement. You will either apply one lesson today, or you will remain the same man tomorrow. Picture your life 1 year from now if nothing changes. Same plans, same starting over, same burst of effort, same collapse into old habits, same apologies you whisper to yourself when no one can hear. That is the future of the inconsistent man. Now picture the other path. Picture waking up with calm power because your mind is no longer in debate. Your hands move because you have trained them to move. Your aim is clear. Your schedule is not a suggestion. Your word is no longer a wish. It is a command. That life begins the moment you learn this. Consistency is not built by intensity. It is built by decision repeated. The ultra-successful man is not always excited. He is simply faithful to his aim, even when he feels nothing. So if you are ambitious but inconsistent, hear me now. You are standing at the border between two identities, the man who keeps starting and the man who finally finishes. The difference is not talent. It is the law you are about to learn. Now give me your attention like a man saving his own future, because you are. The first lesson will feel small, almost insultingly simple, and that is exactly why it works, and why so few men will ever use it. Lesson 1, the oath that ends inner negotiation. Every man who struggles with inconsistency is not weak in desire, he is weak in decision. His days are filled with silent arguments between his higher self and his weaker one. He rises with purpose but goes to sleep in defeat, not because he lacks power, but because he has never learned to end negotiation with himself. This is the root of inconsistency, the constant bargaining that happens inside your own mind. You wake determined, yet by midday the debate begins. Perhaps later, I'll start again tomorrow. Maybe I need a better plan. These are the whispers that kill empires before they are built. A man cannot serve two commands, one of ambition and one of indulgence. Discipline is not a mood. It is not a flash of inspiration. Discipline is a vow, a sacred oath between a man and his purpose. Most never make such an oath. They live by fleeting bursts of effort instead of fixed law. They move forward when excited, then halt when discomfort appears, forgetting that discipline begins where comfort ends. The inconsistent man is often highly ambitious. His imagination is alive. He sees the vision clearly. But imagination without habit is like fire without fuel. It burns brightly and dies quickly. His mind outruns his actions, and the distance between what he dreams and what he does becomes unbearable. This torment is not laziness. It is divided command. Each time a man breaks his own word, he writes it in an invisible ledger deep in the subconscious. That ledger never forgets. It records every promise declared in passion and abandoned in weakness. It measures your integrity, not in intention, but in execution. And one day the mind begins to doubt every new declaration because it remembers all the unfulfilled ones. Self-respect dies not in one great betrayal, but through 1,000 small withdrawals from one's own word. Each delay whispers, "You cannot be trusted." Each excuse trains the mind to expect surrender. This is why inconsistency feels so heavy. It is not the weight of the task, but the burden of broken oaths pressing against the conscience. The cure is simple, and that simplicity is what offends the modern man. He wants a new method, a clever trick, an external push. But the cure is ancient. It is the act that built nations, marriages, and enterprises, the giving of one's word as law. From this moment, you must take an oath, not to others, but to yourself. The first oath is this: I will do what I said I will do when I said I will do it. That sentence, spoken with sincerity, has the power to rewire your entire nature. It sounds too plain to be powerful, yet it is the foundation of all mastery. Speak it aloud each morning before the day begins, and each night before the world grows silent. The subconscious mind responds to repetition. It cannot resist a command spoken daily with conviction. Say your oath aloud, not as a wish, but as an order. Let the vibration of your own voice impress the command upon your inner self. Soon your mind will obey automatically, because it recognizes authority in your tone. The oath must be simple enough to repeat and severe enough to govern. If it is too complex, you will negotiate with it. If it is too gentle, it will not command you. Make your words sharp and absolute. The man who cannot keep one command cannot keep many. Start with one law and obey it ruthlessly. There was a time when Henry Ford was mocked for his vision of producing a car for the common man. His own engineers insisted that his designs were impossible. Yet Ford had already taken an oath with himself. He said, "I will build this car." And when others doubted, he replied, "You work for me, I work for the idea." His oath, not his talent, made him unstoppable. Thomas Edison, too, was bound by an inner vow. He swore he would produce light by electricity and repeated it until the world believed him. He faced 10,000 failures, but never a single negotiation with himself. Every setback tested his patience, not his oath. The vow kept him fixed when results mocked him. Charles M. Schwab rose from a steelworker to one of the most powerful industrialists because he refused to break his own word. His workers said that when he spoke a promise, it became an event. He taught them that a man's power was measured by the number of times he could be trusted to finish what he began. When a man stops negotiating with himself, the world begins to negotiate with him. People sense inner order before they see outer results. The man whose decisions are final carries a presence that commands confidence. Others may not understand why, but they instinctively trust a man who does not drift. One firm vow will save you years of repeated starting over. The drifter spends a lifetime building half bridges and tearing them down. The man of oath builds one bridge stone by stone until it stands forever. Each day he obeys the same command, and each day the command strengthens him. Speak this affirmation now, aloud, as a soldier swears allegiance. I obey my own command. I act when I decide. I finish what I start. My word is law. The difference between trying and taking an oath is the difference between interest and identity. The man who tries gives himself permission to fail. The man who swears gives himself no exit. One lives by chance, the other by law. Choose one daily act that proves your seriousness, something small but absolute. It may be rising at the same hour, writing one page, studying one lesson, completing one task. Whatever you choose, let it be sacred. Do it every day until your mind understands that your word is not open for discussion. Do not underestimate this practice because it is simple. The world is full of clever men who fail because they despise simplicity. Great power begins with one repeated act of obedience. The man who keeps one command perfectly will soon be capable of keeping 10. Let me give you an image to remember. A king who cannot command one soldier cannot rule an army. You are that king, and your first soldier is your daily habit. If it refuses to obey, it is not the soldier who is weak. It is the king who has lost authority. Regain it through your oath. Do not announce your oath to others. Let your results speak. The power of an oath lies in secrecy and sincerity. The world will know soon enough, for your voice will change, your posture will change, your tone will carry finality instead of hope. Once you make your vow, never debate with your weaker self again. The weaker self survives on conversation. Starve it through silence. Each morning when it whispers, later, answer with action, not argument. Movement is the only language the subconscious respects. You will be tested. There will be mornings when you wake weary, evenings when you feel uninspired. These are not failures. They are the proving grounds of your oath. Each time you act regardless of mood, your vow strengthens. Each act of obedience adds weight to your word. Remember this law. A man's life changes when his word becomes law. Until then, every plan remains a theory. Once your word hardens into law, life rearranges itself around your certainty. People, opportunity, and chance all bend to the man who does not bend to himself. You may think this lesson too severe, but the alternative is far crueler. To live year after year as a man who cannot trust his own promises is the slowest form of suffering. The inconsistent man grows old, surrounded by unfinished beginnings, and calls it experience. The disciplined man grows old, surrounded by completed purposes, and calls it life. Now take your oath, not in public, not for applause, but in silence before your own mind. Speak it clearly. Let it echo through the chambers of doubt. Repeat it tonight before you rest, and tomorrow before you rise. Continue until your decisions move without debate. Then, and only then, will you know the power that separates the wanderer from the ruler, the power to command yourself. For when your word becomes law, your life begins to obey. Lesson 2, the single daily standard. Every man who fails to build consistency makes the same mistake. He believes he must conquer the whole mountain at once. He dreams in grand pictures but lives in scattered fragments. He begins each week with lofty goals and ends each week explaining why he could not reach them. He does not lack ambition. He lacks a standard that can be enforced daily. Inconsistency thrives where standards are vague. Most men set wishes instead of laws. They say, I will be better, I will work harder, or I will start strong tomorrow. But these are fog, not direction. The mind cannot obey what it cannot measure. If your commands are uncertain, your actions will be uncertain. Consistency requires clarity, a single act repeated with precision until it becomes part of your identity. Do not confuse this with goal setting as the world teaches it. A goal is an idea of the future. A standard is a demand of the present. Goals live in imagination. Standards live in the next 5 minutes. You can admire goals forever. You can only obey standards now. The man of consistency does not wake asking what he must do. He wakes knowing what he has vowed to repeat. Choose one daily measurable act that serves your chief aim, no matter how small. It might be an hour of study, a page of writing, a set of physical training, a letter written, or a report completed. The size of the act matters less than its certainty. This act becomes your daily law, your proof that you are in command. Men fail because they demand too much change at once. They mistake transformation for explosion. They create lists, schedules, and vows they cannot sustain. Within days, the weight of perfection crushes them, and they abandon the work entirely. The wise man chooses one standard, small enough to do without fail, great enough to build momentum, and obeys it until he no longer needs courage to perform it. This principle will save you 10 years of restarts. The drifter begins again every Monday, fueled by emotion. The builder does not begin again because he never stopped. The drifter rewrites his plan. The builder repeats his standard. One man burns out. The other compounds power. Understand this clearly. The subconscious mind believes only what it sees repeated. It does not respect inspiration. It respects evidence. Each day you perform your standard, you feed it proof that you are dependable. Each skipped day feeds it proof that you are not. The choice between mastery and mediocrity is not made in passion. It is made in repetition. The inconsistent man seeks intensity, not continuity. He wants to feel powerful, so he overreaches, working 15 hours one day and vanishing for 3. He exhausts his will because he mistakes effort for system. The disciplined man conserves his energy by obeying one routine perfectly. He saves years by doing one thing daily instead of many things occasionally. Picture the mason who lays one brick each morning. His neighbor laughs, saying, "You move too slowly." But the mason does not argue. He places one perfect brick upon another, day after day, while the neighbor searches for motivation. Years later, the neighbor lives in excuses. The mason lives in a fortress. Others will begin to trust you when they can depend upon your rhythm. They will know without asking what you are building because your habits reveal it. A man who can be relied upon daily becomes rare. In a world of talkers, the man of standard becomes authority. People will feel your steadiness before you ever announce it. Let your day be judged by one question. Did I keep my standard? Not, did I enjoy it? Not, was it perfect? Only this, did I obey? If yes, the day was a victory. If no, correct and resume. One measure, one correction, repeated 1,000 times, will build a character that no circumstance can shake. This standard will end your habit of restarting. There will be no more new beginnings. Every day becomes a continuation, not a recovery. Momentum will replace motivation. The need for getting back on track will vanish because you will never leave the track. Repeat this affirmation daily. I perform my standard regardless of feeling. My worth is measured by obedience to my word. I build permanence through repetition. Remember, the subconscious does not respond to desire. It responds to evidence. Record your daily proof. It might be a mark on a calendar, a single line in a notebook, or a tally on the wall. The act of marking completion imprints progress upon your mind. It becomes a visible record of reliability. Do not underestimate the quiet satisfaction that follows one small act done faithfully. That is the root of confidence. Not praise, not luck, not talent, but evidence. When a man can point to a chain of fulfilled days, his mind ceases to doubt. Doubt requires absence of proof. Faith requires proof repeated. There will be days when the act feels meaningless, mechanical, even dull. Perform it anyway. The dull days prove loyalty. Emotion is unimportant. Obedience is everything. Each time you perform your standard while uninspired, you strengthen the link between identity and discipline. Let us remember the men who lived by such laws. Andrew Carnegie once said that his power came not from superior intellect, but from superior system. He demanded daily reports, daily actions, daily accountability. Thomas Edison worked at fixed hours regardless of result. Henry Ford inspected his factories each morning, even when no crisis awaited. Each man turned repetition into rule, and rule into empire. The world will begin to treat you differently when you become reliable. Invitations, opportunities, and responsibilities will move toward you because men crave certainty in others. The reliable man becomes a magnet for trust. Trust, once earned, turns into power that no competition can erase. Keep your standard for 30 days without exception. If you miss, resume immediately. Never miss twice. Missing once is human. Missing twice is a decision. A single lapse corrected quickly strengthens discipline. 2 lapses form habit. Guard the chain with vigilance. When you have held your standard long enough, you will notice something profound. Your emotions will begin to respect your schedule. What once felt like resistance will turn into momentum. The body and mind, trained to obey, will act automatically. You will no longer need motivation. You will need direction. This is the secret of consistency. It does not require strength. It creates it. You need not conquer the mountain. You need only climb a few measured steps each day until the summit becomes inevitable. Remember this law. Small daily proofs create large permanent power. The man who repeats one act daily, faithfully, will accomplish more in 1 year than the man who restarts a dozen grand schemes. So choose your standard. Make it small enough to complete, strong enough to matter, and sacred enough to guard. Perform it until it becomes part of your breathing. Then watch as the years you once lost to drifting return to you in the form of confidence, reputation, and mastery. For it is not the great leap that builds a life. It is the single step that is never skipped. Lesson 3, the war on mood. A man cannot build anything permanent while he remains the servant of his moods. The inconsistent man does not fail because he lacks knowledge or desire. He fails because he allows his emotions to decide when he will act. He wakes as one man and sleeps as another, driven not by purpose but by weather within his own heart. Until a man wins the war against mood, he will forever fight battles that should have been settled long ago. Mood is a tyrant dressed as a friend. It enters quietly, speaking with reason. It tells you to rest just this once. It convinces you that inspiration must precede effort. It tells you that waiting until you feel ready is wisdom. But this counsel is poison. Readiness never arrives by waiting. It appears through obedience. Mood changes faster than circumstance. One word, one interruption, one shadow of disappointment can turn eagerness into reluctance. To build your life upon such a foundation is to build upon fog. You cannot trust a mood to guide you, for a mood has no loyalty. It serves itself, not your purpose. Feeling is fuel, not instruction. The disciplined man uses emotion to increase speed, not to determine direction. He does not ignore feeling, he harnesses it. Anger becomes energy for progress. Frustration becomes focus. Weariness becomes reminder that the body serves the mind, not the other way around. When a man acts only when inspired, he trains weakness into his nervous system. He teaches his mind that emotion decides behavior. Each delay reinforces submission to mood. Soon he cannot begin until he feels excitement, and when excitement dies, so does progress. He becomes addicted to beginnings, allergic to follow-through. The disciplined man knows the difference between working and obeying. Working depends on motivation. Obeying depends on decision. Work can be postponed. Obedience cannot. When he decides, his hands move even when the heart resists. And as the hands move, the heart follows. Emotion, once a master, becomes a servant. The crowd cannot understand such steadiness. They call it obsession. They call it luck. They say he must be inspired. No, he is not inspired, he is ordered. His direction does not shift because he no longer allows mood to sit upon the throne of command. Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, and Edwin C. Barnes all endured seasons without excitement. Barnes spent years in Edison's workshop performing trivial labor, but he did not depart. He obeyed his decision to stay until he became indispensable. Edison worked through failure after failure without mood. Ford continued when every engineer said his design was impossible. They were not men of inspiration. They were men of vow. Let me show you the method by which such men move forward. They act first and allow emotion to arrive later. The body in motion calls forth the mind in motion. When you sit waiting for motivation, you are teaching the mind to delay. When you move regardless of feeling, you are teaching the mind to obey. Motivation is unreliable because it depends on outer conditions. Habit is faithful because it is internal law. The man who relies on habit cannot be stopped by circumstance. He moves as the sun moves, by schedule, not by impulse. Each day you resist mood, your strength doubles. The first act of obedience breaks the chain of emotion. The second act tightens discipline. The third transforms discipline into instinct. Soon you will act without inner debate. Mood will still whisper, but it will whisper to a deaf man. Repeat these affirmations daily until they feel carved into stone. My mood does not decide my actions. I act as commanded by purpose. Feeling follows obedience. I am master of motion, not its servant. When boredom, irritation, or fatigue appears, recognize it as a test. Do not analyze it. Do not speak to it. Simply proceed. Action is the only language mood cannot argue with. Each time you proceed, the old self weakens and the new self gains authority. You must understand this law. Resistance to mood today makes resistance easier tomorrow. The subconscious mind records every victory. It learns that you will act even when unwilling. Soon, hesitation becomes unfamiliar, and obedience becomes the path of least resistance. The inconsistent man treats emotion as evidence. The disciplined man treats it as noise. When you feel doubt, treat it as wind against your sails. Not a reason to change direction, but a sign that you are moving forward. If you were standing still, the wind would not blow against you. Great men are not immune to emotion. They are immune to obedience to emotion. They experience the same discouragements, but they do not surrender to them. They have built a wall of habit so high that even fear cannot climb it. This is how you save 20 years of repeated collapse. Every time you pause to wait for inspiration, you delay your life. Multiply one day of hesitation by 1,000 mornings, and you have wasted a decade. Multiply that again, and you have lost a lifetime. When others see you acting calmly, faithfully, without visible motivation, they will begin to regard you differently. They will feel your reliability long before they see your results. They will say, "He is steady," and that single word, steady, will replace every apology you have ever made for inconsistency. There is power in being unmoved by weather, by opinion, by mood. The man who acts when others delay gains the ground they abandon. He arrives where they only intended to go. He is not more gifted. He is simply less governed by his emotions. Each morning, rise and decide your work before mood awakes. Begin while the mind is still pure. Move before your emotions have time to argue. The first act of the day should be chosen by purpose, not by mood. Win the first hour, and you will win the day. You may ask, how will I know when this war is won? You will know when resistance loses its voice, when hesitation feels unnatural, and when your actions no longer require encouragement. That is the day you will understand mastery. This is the third time-saving law. The man who obeys purpose outranks the man who obeys feeling. Feelings fade, but faithfulness endures. When you live by decision instead of emotion, you cease to be a man blown by the wind. You become the wind itself. Lesson 4, the hidden ledger of self-trust. There is a quiet accountant within every man, unseen but ever present. It keeps the true record of his life, not his income, not his possessions, but the number of times he has done what he said he would do. Each promise kept is entered as a credit. Each promise broken is marked as a debt. This is the hidden ledger of self-trust, and it determines more of a man's destiny than talent, chance, or circumstance. The inconsistent man is always in debt to himself. He declares intentions lavishly, but pays them poorly. He announces plans in excitement, then abandons them in silence. To the outer world he may appear unchanged, but inwardly his subconscious has begun to doubt him. The mind remembers every unpaid promise. It whispers, "You say much, but you do little." Every broken promise makes the next promise weaker. The first time a man delays, he feels discomfort. The second time, he feels less. The third time, nothing at all. He calls this progress. I'm learning not to be so hard on myself. In truth, he has merely dulled his conscience. He has trained his own inner witness to look away. Ambitious men suffer most from this disease. They can see the height of the mountain, but have not learned to take the steady steps that climb it. The pain they carry is not laziness, but contradiction, a vision that outpaces habit. They are haunted not by failure, but by unfulfilled capacity. Self-trust is not built by affirmations alone. It is built by evidence. When a man begins to keep even the smallest promises to himself, the ledger shifts. The subconscious, once skeptical, starts to record a different pattern. He says it, then he does it. That single sentence restores power faster than years of talk. Start small, but make the promise sacred. It may be a fixed waking hour, a page written, a lesson studied. The act itself is less important than the obedience it demands. When you complete it, take a moment to feel the quiet strength that follows. That sensation is not pride. It is the return of credibility. Every day you obey your own word, you deposit power into your inner account. Each deposit increases interest, and that interest is confidence. Confidence is not noise. It is the calm knowledge that you can rely on yourself. You no longer hope you will follow through. You know it, and others can sense it long before they hear you speak. The voice of the self-trusting man is different. It carries weight because it is backed by record. When he says, "I will," his tone ends the discussion. Even those who doubt him outwardly begin to believe inwardly, for the human spirit recognizes authority. Observe the transformation that occurs when this ledger turns positive. Posture straightens, hesitation fades, the eyes settle instead of darting. The mind becomes still because it no longer argues with itself. Each kept promise becomes a stone in the foundation of power. There is no mystery in this. Every great builder of history kept careful account with himself. Henry Ford's engineers once said he seemed unshakably confident even when his factories burned. That was not arrogance. It was self-trust built through years of obedience to decision. Edison could endure 1,000 failures because he had proof that he would rise on the 1,001st. Andrew Carnegie could give orders that moved entire industries because he had trained himself never to retreat from a single one. To rebuild your own authority, begin this practice tonight. Make one promise to yourself that can be completed before you sleep. Do it without fail. Record it in writing. One sentence. Promise kept. Tomorrow, add another. This is how the new ledger begins. When you falter, and you will, do not drown in guilt. Simply return at once. The rule is simple. Never miss twice. Missing once is error. Missing twice is decision. Correct the error immediately, and the mind will forgive. Delay, and it will begin to question your sincerity again. Repeat these affirmations as you record your progress. I keep my word with precision. I can rely upon myself. My confidence is evidence, not theory. My record is my power. You must repair self-trust before you attempt great plans. A weak foundation cannot support a tower, no matter how brilliant the design. Each unkept promise is a crack beneath the surface. The first storm will bring the entire structure down. But when your foundation is sound, even the fiercest wind becomes an ally. It only proves your strength. Restoring self-trust will save you years of shame and false starts. The man who believes himself unreliable spends half his life apologizing and the other half excusing. The man who knows himself reliable wastes no energy convincing others. His work speaks for him. Every night, conduct a simple accounting. Do not judge, merely record. One line for each promise kept. At the week's end, read your entries. You will see, in those quiet marks, the map of your recovery. You will discover that self-respect is not a feeling granted by success. It is a habit built by accuracy. This is the fourth time-saving law. Self-trust is the foundation of all consistency. When you can look within and see a ledger written in your own hand, balanced in your favor, you will no longer beg for motivation. You will have something far greater, proof. And proof, once possessed, makes a man unstoppable. Lesson 5, the discipline of the door closed. If you study the habits of men who rise, you will find one pattern repeated in all, the habit of guarding their attention as jealously as a miser guards his gold. The world calls them severe, private, or distant. In truth, they have simply learned that scattered attention creates scattered outcomes. The inconsistent man believes he can remain open to every sound, every distraction, every trivial call upon his time, and still build something strong. He cannot. No man can serve both purpose and noise. Controlled attention is the rarest form of power. The average man gives his energy to any interruption that demands it. He stops his work to answer gossip, his study to respond to complaint, his progress to soothe unimportant emotion. He calls this kindness, but it is weakness. For every interruption tolerated steals the material of mastery, time and thought. The inconsistent man is overly available to people, to impulses, to anything that spares him the discomfort of focus. He believes that by being reachable, he is useful. In truth, He has become an instrument for other men's purposes. He spends his days in reaction instead of creation. Discipline demands that you close the door, not in anger, but in reverence for what must be done. You must guard your hours as a priest guards his temple. Once you step into your work, all lesser calls must wait. This is the discipline of separation, a sacred solitude where your purpose can speak to you clearly without interruption. Set aside a daily period of isolation devoted to your chief aim. 1 hour at the start of the day is enough to change the direction of your life. During this hour, there will be no conversation, no idle wandering, no indulgent thought. This is your private chamber of creation. You enter it as a servant and leave it as a master. Through this practice, a new identity begins to form. I am a man who finishes. When you honor this solitary hour each day, you prove that your word outranks the world's noise. Each repetition strengthens command over yourself. Soon, others will feel it. They will notice that interruptions no longer shake you, that your presence carries purpose even in silence. Every man who has achieved something great has practiced this law. Thomas Edison locked himself in his laboratory for days, emerging only when the problem bent to his will. Henry Ford isolated himself from his advisors when his vision was doubted. Charles Schwab demanded silence before decision. They closed their doors not out of arrogance, but to preserve the clarity that noise destroys. When you close the door, the world will react. Those accustomed to your constant availability will protest. They will call you distant, self-centered, changed. Let them. You were not born to be accessible. You were born to be effective. The man who pleases everyone builds nothing of value. The man who pleases his purpose builds everything else as a byproduct. A single hour of defended solitude will save years of wasted hours. In that silence, your ideas will sharpen, your thoughts will align, and your decisions will become definite. You will notice how quickly your inner voice grows stronger once the outer voices grow quiet. Begin with the first hour of the day. The mind, upon waking, is untainted by distraction. What you do with that hour determines who you are for the rest of the day. Do not give it away. Close the door. Guard it as you would your own life, for in truth it is your life, the beginning of all your power. Repeat these affirmations as you enter your solitary hour. My attention obeys me. My focus builds my fortune. I am unavailable to distraction. The man who controls his attention controls his destiny. Understand this. Attention is more valuable than money. Money can be regained. Attention once lost is gone forever. You are not paid for your time. You are paid for your concentration. 1 hour of focused effort exceeds 10 of half-hearted labor. For 30 days, choose one aim. Refuse every competing aim until the first is complete. The world will call you narrow-minded. They are right. And narrowness is the secret of fire. A lens that gathers every ray burns nothing. A lens that gathers one point burns through steel. Distraction is often fear disguised as busyness. The inconsistent man multiplies tasks to avoid the one that truly matters. He mistakes movement for progress, activity for productivity. But once the door is closed, there is nowhere to run from purpose. The silence forces him to face his own potential. And that is why silence is sacred. When others knock upon your attention, remember this truth. To serve everyone is to serve no one. Each yes to interruption is a no to destiny. Every time you delay your chief aim for trivial talk, you have betrayed yourself. This is the 5th time-saving law. The man who controls attention controls destiny. When you master the door, you master the world. For a man who cannot be distracted cannot be defeated. Lesson 6. The method of the unbroken chain. There is a simple device through which empires are built, fortunes sustained, and characters forged. The method of the unbroken chain. It is the visible proof of invisible discipline. Each link in this chain is a day of obedience, a mark of completion, a record of self-command. To see this chain lengthen is to watch strength become substance. Most men never build this chain because they prefer the illusion of starting over. They fail, grow guilty, and call for a new beginning, never realizing that in doing so, they erase all momentum. Every fresh start is a quiet confession of inconsistency. Consistency must be seen, not merely imagined. When you record your obedience, even with a simple mark on a calendar or line in a notebook, you feed the mind evidence of control. The subconscious sees the chain and says he does as he decides. That awareness becomes identity. The rule is this: each day, do the act you have vowed, no matter how small, and mark its completion. Do not break the chain. Even on the hardest day, perform a fraction of the act rather than none. It is not the size of the link that matters. It is the continuity of connection. A single day missed is not a failure. It is a crack. 2 days missed is collapse. You must understand this difference. The first miss weakens, but the second destroys momentum. Return immediately. Do not drown in guilt. Act at once, and the chain will hold. Each day of obedience adds to your invisible reputation. Others may not see the record, but they will sense it in your presence. Reliability radiates. When you say you will act, they believe you, because your very being communicates completion. The inconsistent man breaks momentum by treating each day as isolated. The consistent man treats each day as a continuation. To him, life is one unbroken sentence, each day a word contributing to the same meaning. Let this be your method. Rise, perform your task, mark your record, and protect it. No negotiation, no indulgence. That mark is your proof of integrity. Every evening, review your chain. Do not admire it, extend it. Think of Thomas Edison, whose laboratory walls bore rows of dates marking his experiments. He did not hope for progress, he recorded it. Each mark, each trial, each repetition built upon the last until success became mathematical certainty. Or consider Andrew Carnegie, who demanded daily progress reports from every foreman, knowing that habit recorded is habit enforced. Repeat these affirmations each morning. I do not break my chain. Each day strengthens my law. My proof grows with my repetition. Continuity is my authority. This method, though simple, is profound. It converts effort into evidence, evidence into faith, and faith into power. When you can see your obedience, doubt dies. To save a decade, you must end the ritual of restarting. There is no new beginning, only the next link. Men lose years chasing new systems, new tools, new philosophies, believing the change of method will substitute for constancy. It never will. Power does not come from novelty. Power comes from accumulation. Protect the chain more than your mood. If you are ill, perform a fraction. If you are weary, perform the smallest step. The act itself is secondary to the continuity. A short day strengthens. A missed day weakens. Over time, the chain will grow long enough to frighten your former self. You will see proof of what can happen when obedience replaces impulse. That chain will not only represent days, it will represent years of consistency that others mistake for luck. This is the sixth time-saving law. Continuity is more powerful than intensity. For intensity burns quickly, but continuity endures. And he who endures wins. Lesson 7, the furnace of discomfort. If you look closely at the moments when men quit, you will always find one thing in common: the arrival of discomfort. It appears in many forms: boredom, doubt, fatigue, criticism, rejection. Each is merely a disguise. The mind calls it a sign to stop, but in truth it is the fire that forges endurance. Inconsistency is nothing more than avoidance of pain. The inconsistent man stops not because he cannot continue, but because he believes he should not have to. He mistakes comfort for reward. He sees effort as punishment instead of privilege. Thus, he spends his life seeking relief rather than mastery. You must reverse this law. Treat discomfort as training, not torture. Every difficulty you face is an opportunity to harden your will. The man who chooses the harder road grows while others decay. Hardship is the fee life charges for strength. Pay it gladly, for the price never decreases. Only your ability to pay it increases. Comfort weakens decision. The man who seeks it frequently loses the ability to choose anything demanding. Ease numbs vision. Luxury, leisure, and excess rest produce minds incapable of command. Discomfort, on the other hand, produces men who can be trusted with power. Boredom is the first fire of the furnace. When repetition begins to dull your enthusiasm, you are standing at the entrance to mastery. Most turn back here, believing progress should feel exciting. It does not. Growth feels monotonous. Excellence is repetition performed long after novelty dies. Fatigue is the second fire. When the body complains, the mind must remind it of its station. Servant, not sovereign. The moment you learn that fatigue cannot command you, your power doubles. Doubt is the third fire. It arrives whispering, perhaps this effort is wasted. It tempts you with ease disguised as wisdom. But doubt's purpose is to test your allegiance to decision. Endure it, and it will become faith. There is a story of a man who trained himself to rise before dawn every day, regardless of weather. For weeks, it was agony. But one morning, he awoke before the alarm. The habit had been sealed. That single moment when discipline became nature was worth every prior discomfort. You must practice small discomforts daily to prepare for great ones. Rise earlier than comfort demands. Work longer than your mood prefers. Choose silence when gossip calls. These small denials build a spine of steel. Soon, larger obstacles will feel natural. Repeat these affirmations during hardship. I welcome discomfort as my tutor. My strength is built in the heat of difficulty. I do not seek ease, I seek endurance. Each trial refines me. Others will see the change before you do. They will notice that pressure no longer rattles you, that delay no longer discourages you. You will seem calm in storms that destroy lesser men. That calm is not indifference. It is power born of repetition in the furnace. This law will save you decades. Most men spend half their lives recovering from avoidable weakness, restarting after every difficulty, blaming fate, retreating into comfort. If you embrace the furnace early, you will forge a will that never needs repair. Remember, the will grows where comfort is denied. Each time you choose the harder task, you stretch your capacity. Each act of endurance becomes a thread in a net of unbreakable resolve. This is the seventh time-saving law. The will grows where comfort is denied. When you stop running from pain and begin to recruit it, you become unstoppable. The same heat that melts others will mold you. And when the fire rises, you will smile, for you have lived there long enough to call it home. Lesson 8, the mastermind as a mirror. A man who walks alone in pursuit of mastery soon encounters an unseen enemy, himself. The solitary worker, noble in intention, believes isolation will preserve his focus, but over time it breeds self-deception. The human mind is clever at justifying delay, disguising fear as caution, and calling weakness balance. That is why every man seeking consistency must join forces with others of equal or greater seriousness. The habit of solitude, though it sounds strong, too easily hides inconsistency. What we call independence often conceals indiscipline. The inconsistent man avoids accountability because it threatens his comfort. When he fails, he wishes for no witness. When he drifts, he prefers not to be seen. And so, his weakness grows unchallenged. But when he joins himself to other disciplined men, men who are not impressed by excuses, his inconsistency begins to wither under scrutiny. The mastermind principle is the antidote to self-deception. It is not a group for sympathy, nor a gathering of complaint. It is a deliberate union of minds committed to mutual progress and correction. It acts as a mirror in which each man must see himself clearly, his habits, his excuses, his results. The mirror never flatters, but it never lies. In my long study of successful men, I found this principle repeated so often that I could no longer call it coincidence. Andrew Carnegie built his fortune not by isolation, but by surrounding himself with men whose loyalty and intellect matched his own. Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Harvey Firestone, they met regularly, each bringing his experience and courage to test the others. Their conversation shaped inventions, industries, and the future itself. A mastermind has one rule. All members must be builders, not talkers. There is no room for the idle, the envious, or the negative. Each man must come to the meeting prepared to report his progress, not his troubles. He must be willing to speak the truth, even when it cuts, and to hear the truth, even when it wounds. You must understand this. The company you keep is a silent sculptor of your destiny. The thoughts of others seep into your subconscious through conversation, through association, through invisible suggestion. Spend enough time with drifters, and your mind will drift. Walk daily among the disciplined, and you will become severe with yourself. Form a simple weekly council with one or two serious individuals. Do not aim for a large circle. A mastermind's strength lies in quality, not quantity. Meet at a fixed hour each week. Speak plainly of what was done, what was avoided, and what must be done next. Write it. Sign it. Let the week itself become a contract between you and your allies. You will soon feel the pressure of expectation. You will know that your progress or neglect will be weighed before others. That pressure is not an enemy. It is the weight that strengthens resolve. Accountability is the forge where sincerity becomes consistency. Choose allies carefully. The average man will resent your seriousness. He will attempt to soften you with laughter, mock you with phrases like, "You're too hard on yourself." Avoid him. His comfort is contagious, and comfort destroys consistency. Seek those who challenge you, who make you uneasy, who hold you to your word. They are the instruments of your growth. Repeat these affirmations before every meeting. I welcome correction as a builder welcomes tools. My allies reflect my standard. I rise to the expectation I create. I speak progress, not excuse. Report your daily proof to your mastermind weekly. Do not seek praise, seek precision. Every account you give trains the subconscious to associate pride with progress and shame with neglect. This internal alignment is what transforms ordinary effort into devotion. Refuse gossip, complaint, and aimless talk. The mastermind is a place of direction, not distraction. Let the discussions revolve around plans, actions, and lessons. The man who wastes this sacred hour in triviality is like a priest turning his altar into a stage. When you begin to surround yourself with serious men, the world will notice. Your tone will change, your discipline will sharpen, your ambitions will multiply. People will sense your alliance even when unseen. They will treat you as one backed by unseen power, and they will be right. This principle alone can save you years of private failure. The man who works in secrecy often repeats his mistakes in silence. The man who reports to others corrects them swiftly. Accountability compresses decades of wandering into months of progress. This is the 8th time-saving law. Association either strengthens discipline or destroys it. The wise man chooses his company as carefully as he chooses his destiny, for in time they become the same thing. Lesson 9, the art of finishing. The world remembers finishers. It forgets starters. Every graveyard holds countless men who began grand enterprises but left them half-built, covered in the dust of hesitation. The crowd celebrates beginnings because they are exciting. It avoids the truth that finishing requires endurance few possess. To finish is to confront fatigue, boredom, doubt, and imperfection, and to continue anyway. Inconsistency is often a fear of finishing. A man begins eagerly but stops when he nears completion because finishing invites measurement. Once he finishes, his work must face the world. It can be judged. Until then, it remains in progress, protected from failure by incompleteness. Thus, he lives in a permanent state of almost. Starting gives pleasure, finishing gives peace. The difference is cost. Starting demands enthusiasm. Finishing demands courage. Starting draws applause. Finishing requires solitude. The inconsistent man loves applause. The consistent man loves closure. To train the art of finishing, break your work into parts that can be completed. Each finished part becomes a promise fulfilled, a brick placed. Completion creates momentum. Partial progress feeds perfectionism. Completion feeds confidence. Let me tell you of a truth I have witnessed. Nothing strengthens the will like the act of completion. A finished task stands as evidence of control. Each completion tells the subconscious, I am dependable. Each unfinished task whispers the opposite. Your mind counts them silently. The difference between confidence and guilt lies in the sum. Consider the story of R.U. Darby, who stopped digging 3 feet from gold. He had invested everything, time, labor, faith, yet quit just before success. Later, he learned the lesson and made his fortune in life insurance by finishing every effort he began. The law had not betrayed him. He had betrayed the law of persistence. When you feel fatigue in your pursuit, remember this: the final steps are always the steepest. Life guards its rewards behind a door of weariness. It tests whether you will continue without promise of rest. Those who persist beyond this door claim all that others abandon. Make finishing a daily habit. End each day with 1 completed unit of work, however small. A man who finishes daily becomes unstoppable, for completion becomes part of his nature. Even his speech will reflect it: short, decisive, complete. Repeat these affirmations until they become instinct. I finish what I begin. My completion commands respect. I find energy at the end, not the beginning. I do not seek comfort. I seek closure. Do not wait for perfection before finishing. Perfection is a trap laid by fear. It tells you to delay under the disguise of excellence. The truth is this: unfinished perfection is worthless. Completed imperfection builds empires. Every advancement in history was born of men willing to release their work before it was flawless. Others will begin to treat you as a leader when they see that you finish what you start. Completion is magnetic. The man who finishes radiates authority because the world knows he delivers. People instinctively trust his word because his actions have already verified it. Every uncompleted promise, task, or project drains energy. Close them. Tie the loose ends. Even small, unfinished tasks clutter the subconscious. You cannot move boldly toward tomorrow while yesterday remains half-built. Finishing clears the path for focus. Remember, there is no greatness in beginning well. There is greatness in ending strong. The runner who sprints at the start impresses the crowd. The one who crosses the finish line changes history. This is the 9th time-saving law. Finishing creates identity. The world belongs to the finisher, for he alone has learned the rare art of seeing a thing through. Lesson X, the ritual of the morning command. If you wish to command your life, you must first command your day. And if you wish to command your day, you must begin before the world wakes. Every hour has its master. The morning belongs to the disciplined, the afternoon to the distracted, the night to the defeated. The man who captures the morning governs all that follows. Drift begins early. Most men lose their day before they leave their bed. They open their eyes and wait for feeling to instruct them. They begin not with purpose, but with reaction, to worry, to messages, to noise. In that first half hour, the battle is lost. A man cannot win the day when he starts it as a servant to interruption. Your morning must become a ceremony of command. Before speaking to the world, you must speak to your mind. Before attending to others, you must attend to your own aim. Begin with motion. Move the body before thought interferes. The blood must obey the will before the mind learns to doubt. This movement need not be violent. A walk, stretching, or steady exertion is enough to remind the flesh who rules. Then study. Fill the mind with greatness before the world fills it with noise. Read the writings of builders and thinkers who live before you. Their thoughts will set your mind in order and remind you of the laws that govern success. This half hour of mental feeding will sharpen clarity throughout the day. Next, speak your chief aim aloud. Do not whisper. Speak as a man giving orders to his army. The subconscious must hear command, not suggestion. Say, "This is what I am building. This is who I am becoming. This is what I will do today." Words spoken aloud are instruments of creation. Finally, perform the hardest task first. This is the principle of morning conquest. The task you most wish to delay is the one that defines your day. Complete it before distraction awakens. The rest of your work will seem light by comparison. These 4 acts, movement, study, spoken aim, and first work, form the morning command. Together, they transform a wandering man into a deliberate one. Within weeks, you will notice a new certainty guiding your hours. The day will no longer drift. It will obey. Repeat these affirmations with conviction each morning. I command this day. It does not command me. I move before I think, and I think before I speak. My aim governs my actions. The first hour decides the rest. When you live by this ritual, others will notice. They will see your steadiness, your calm, your order. You will not speak of being busy, for your work will flow without noise. They will sense your control and feel compelled to trust you. Remember, autosuggestion is not hope, it is command. Speak your purpose aloud until it no longer feels foreign. Every repetition presses it deeper into the subconscious until obedience becomes instinct. Guard the morning from idle talk, from trivial tasks, from news, gossip, and fatigue. Each morning wasted costs more than an evening lost. A man who misuses his first hour pays interest on chaos the rest of the day. This ritual alone can save you 10 years of wasted days. Every morning obeyed adds a brick to the fortress of consistency. Each undisciplined morning removes one. You need not be extraordinary to master this, only exact. This is the 10th time-saving law. The day obeys the man who commands it early. When you rise before the world, you rise above it. The man who wins the morning no longer seeks time. Time serves him. Lesson 11, the identity of the man who cannot be trusted to quit. There comes a moment in every man's life when he must decide not merely what he wishes to do, but who he intends to be. All the laws we have studied lead to this final one, for no system, no plan, no routine can survive if it contradicts the image a man holds of himself. Behavior follows belief as surely as shadow follows substance. To change what you do for a time is simple. To change what you believe you are, that is the work of mastery. Inconsistency is not simply a failure of effort. It is a failure of identity. The inconsistent man thinks, "I will try to be disciplined," while secretly believing he is still the man who drifts. He acts like a soldier, but thinks like a beggar. He obeys for a day, but doubts in secret that obedience can be permanent. As long as this inner contradiction lives, no method will save him. Consistency begins when a man redefines himself, not by ambition, not by circumstance, but by decree. He must declare, "I am a man who does not stop. I am the one who finishes." Not, "I will try," but "I am." The difference seems small in words, but vast in consequence. One phrase is a wish, the other is law. The subconscious mind accepts identity faster than it accepts orders. You can command yourself for a week, but if you still believe you are unreliable, you will fail. Yet if you truly believe you are a man of persistence, you will continue even when logic says to stop. Identity is stronger than emotion, stronger than reason, stronger than fatigue. You must therefore replace every thought of weakness with a new self-definition. You must no longer say, I'm improving, but I am already becoming. You must no longer say, I hope to succeed, but I am the kind of man success obeys. The world, hearing such words, will call you arrogant, but you will know they are not words of pride. They are words of creation. Identity governs behavior automatically. The farmer rises early not because he feels heroic, but because his identity commands it. The soldier stands his post through rain and hunger not because he enjoys it, but because he cannot imagine doing otherwise. When the mind accepts a role, effort becomes duty, and duty, once accepted, ceases to require motivation. You must become predictable to yourself. Predictability is not dullness, it is proof of power. The man who can rely upon his own behavior carries a peace that others call confidence. He moves without doubt because he no longer negotiates with himself. He has become the lawgiver of his own conduct. There is only one test. Can you trust yourself not to quit? Not once, not in easy hours, but when the world offers you 1,000 good reasons to stop. The man who can be trusted not to quit is the man to whom all other virtues attach themselves. Faith, courage, endurance, honor, for all are built upon this single foundation. You must train the subconscious to accept this identity through repetition. For 30 days or 30 years, if necessary, speak your definition aloud every morning. Write it where your eyes will see it. Live it before your emotions catch up. The subconscious learns not by explanation, but by evidence. Each act of endurance proves your claim. Affirm daily, I am the man who cannot be trusted to quit. My nature is persistence. I do not surrender to weariness, opinion, or fear. My word is permanent. My work is inevitable. Fear dissolves when identity solidifies. Fear survives only in the uncertain. When a man knows who he is, no obstacle can make him doubt his course. The mountain does not question whether it should stand when the storm arrives. It stands because it is a mountain. The disciplined man continues because he is a disciplined man. Others will begin to seek guidance from you, not because you declare yourself wise, but because your steadiness demands trust. They will confide in you, follow you, imitate you. They will feel safe near you, for consistency is the rarest form of strength. When a man's character becomes law, even the uncertain borrow courage from his certainty. The man who no longer drifts does not merely gain success, he gains peace. His days are not noisy with indecision. His nights are not filled with apology. He wakes knowing who he is, and that knowledge itself creates momentum. He no longer chases purpose, he becomes it. Life begins to accelerate the moment indecision is removed. Choices shrink, direction clears, the fog of possibility lifts, revealing a single straight path. What once felt like endless conflict becomes calm progress. You move faster because there is no longer an argument within you, and so the final law stands revealed. When your word becomes law, your future becomes certain. For all success begins with decision, and all decision must end in identity. A man may imitate strength for a season, but only the man who is strong will endure a lifetime. The world bends to those who keep their inner promises. It cannot resist them. They radiate authority, for the law they live by is the same law that governs achievement, definiteness, order, persistence. They are trusted not because they persuade, but because they prove. Ambition, once tortured by inconsistency, becomes joy when consistency becomes nature. Work ceases to be a struggle. Time ceases to be an enemy. The man who once fought to stay steady becomes incapable of wavering. He has crossed the border between wishing and being. Now the cycle is complete. The man who once could not trust himself has become the man others trust implicitly. His very presence speaks of promise kept. The inner command he once struggled to give has become automatic, like breath. He has become the living expression of purpose in motion. Epilogue, the return of power. And now, my friend, you stand at the end of this study, or rather, at its true beginning. For these lessons are not finished when read, they are finished when lived. Knowledge alone will not transform you. Obedience will. You must decide now whether you will return to drifting or whether you will join the company of those rare men who live by law rather than emotion. If you have followed me through these 11 lessons, you have already begun to feel a change. It is subtle at first, a quiet sense that the hours are no longer slipping away unnoticed. Perhaps you have begun to hear your own thoughts with new sharpness, to speak with greater finality, to sense a seriousness in your tone that was not there before. That is the sound of self-command awakening. Every man is born capable of greatness, but few are willing to pay its price. Greatness does not demand genius. It demands governance, the rule of thought over feeling, decision over distraction, order over ease. Each law you have learned is a tool to restore that rule. You now possess the blueprint to turn ambition into structure and structure into destiny. Understand what you have accomplished even by listening fully. You have practiced endurance. You have exercised the mind's attention. You have already proven that you can remain with one subject longer than most men can remain with their own thoughts. That alone separates you from the crowd. But the true test begins the moment this speech ends, the moment the world re-enters your thoughts, the moment the old habits whisper again, tomorrow. You must answer them not with argument, but with action. The drifter waits for feeling to return. The disciplined man moves, and feeling follows. Consistency will not arrive with applause. It will come quietly. In the morning you rise when you would rather rest, in the hour you labor when no one praises you, in the decision you complete when doubt mocks you. It will come through repetition until your habits begin to think for you. You have learned that the real enemy of success is not fear or failure, it is hesitation. Every man receives opportunities, but only the consistent can hold them long enough to profit by them. The world belongs to those who can be trusted with time. Let your transformation remain private for now. Do not announce resolutions to others. Let them see the result in your conduct. Let your work become your signature. The man who must speak of change has not yet completed it. The man who lives it speaks through action. There will come a morning when you wake and realize you have crossed the invisible threshold. Your word will no longer tremble on your tongue. Your thoughts will no longer argue. Your work will no longer feel foreign. You will have become the man you once hoped to be. Others will call it discipline, but you will know the truth. It is identity. Do not fear the years ahead. The time you have lost to inconsistency is not gone. It was tuition. Those wasted years were not punishment, but preparation, proof that nothing works until you do. Every regret can be turned into wisdom if it drives you to action today. And when the years ahead bring success, as they must if you obey these laws, remember this: mastery is not ownership, it is stewardship. The disciplined man guards his habits as treasures. He remains vigilant, for he knows that even after victory, drift waits just beyond the gate. You may, if you wish, take the next 30 days to seal these principles into action. Begin each morning with motion, each day with one measurable standard, each night with reflection. Keep your chain unbroken. Close your door daily. Stand among men who hold you accountable. Each repetition will tighten your identity until inconsistency becomes impossible. If you do this faithfully, you will save not only 10 years, you will save yourself. For the greatest tragedy is not failure, but the man who succeeds at everything except command over his own mind. Now, before we part, remember the sentence that closes every law, every philosophy, every victory worth its cost. A man's life changes when his word becomes law. Make your word law, and the world will begin to obey you. Your future will no longer drift, it will march. Your decisions will no longer tremble, they will stand. And your name, whispered among those who finish what they begin, will carry the quiet authority of a man who was once ambitious and finally became consistent.